In this video, we'll talk about a tennis legend that has finally been unearthed after 22 years in the land down under. Known for not just the scariest beetles or their oceanic twangs, Australia has come a long way in the world of tennis. And Ajla Tomjanovic's entry into the Final 8 at Wimbledon is yet another Aussie achievement that has been decades in the making. So let's dive right in. Up first, Ajla dethrones Australian female tennis legend Ash Barty. Earlier this year, the tennis community was quite shocked to know that the three-time Grand Slam singles and reigning Wimbledon champion Ash Barty stepped down from the courts of the sport and announced her retirement after a spectacular tennis career. At 26, Barty had the career of a lifetime ahead of her, but in March 2022, she announced that she will no longer feel the pull toward tennis and so will be retiring from the sport. And so her departure from the courts paved way for the Croatian-born Ajla to assume the role of Australia's best women's tennis player, and guys, she did not disappoint at all. Because this world number 38 then became the first Australian female to make it to the Final 8 at this year's Wimbledon, a feat Aussies hadn't witnessed since the great Jelena Dokic in 1999. And now, Ajla is ready for an all-time career high. The right-handed tennis star cemented her footing in tennis when she played for Croatia until she received her permanent residence in Australia in 2014. So far, Ajla has won herself 4 singles and 3 doubles titles on the ITF circuit and reached a career-high ranking peaking at the world number 38. While Barty left behind a legacy to catch up, Ajla already has plenty of laurels to her name to surpass her predecessor. But is it enough to prove she's ready for prime time? Of course, guys. She's literally one of the best there is. Her performance in this year's Wimbledon is just a reflection of the lessons she's learned after the soul-crushing defeat against Barty, her forerunner, at last year's Grand Slam. But how confident is Ajla when it comes to racing to the top? Well, guys, if there's anything we've learned in the world of tennis, it's that consistency is key and that there's no room for self-doubt. Tomjanovic has been pretty vocal about her struggle with believing in herself and often said that she didn't think she would be back at her second quarterfinal at Wimbledon this year. After all, she went up against Ash Barty, who plays phenomenal tennis, and her presence might have just intimidated Ajla to the point of defeat. However, she's pretty hopeful that she's destined to reach the top and that nothing can faze her as she proves her capabilities as an athlete. She thinks she has a better shot this year, and since it's her 4th round victory, then maybe she does belong on the court after all. Now, on to Ajla's performance at Wimbledon this year. Wimbledon 2022 definitely proved to be lucky for this Aussie because the 29-year-old just made it to the quarterfinals again after defeating the French legend Alizé Cornet. For 22 years, the Australians hadn't seen a female athlete represent them in the quarterfinals since the tennis magician Jelena Dokic. It's still hard to believe that Jelena was only 16 when she beat world number 1 Martina Hingis, then so obviously qualifying her for the Final 8 was a pretty big deal. But that doesn't steal away the limelight from Ajla, as she proceeds for the Grand Slam title for the first time in 22 years, giving the folks down under a reason to raise a few bevies. And having parents in the stands made the victory all the sweeter. When you're in the midst of making history, and it's kinda nerve-wracking to have all those eyes on you, along with the mountainous expectations burdening your shoulders. But all it takes is an encouraging smile from your mom or a thumbs up from your dad that takes away all the worries and replaces them with enthusiasm and the resolve to win. Ajla was lucky to have her parents' support this year, and their presence proved to be a lucky charm for her, as they proudly cheered for their daughter's victory to the quarterfinals. Unfortunately, last year, Tomjanovic's mom couldn't make it to her first Grand Slam quarterfinal because of COVID-19's travel restrictions, which is why we're so glad Ajla's biggest cheerleader could witness her win this year. So what's next for Australia's number 1? Well, the title of being a number 1 player is definitely loads of responsibility, and since Ajla is no stranger to the expectation that comes with being a tennis player, she's been busy shifting gears and focusing all her energies toward the quarterfinals of Wimbledon. When asked about how long Ajla sees herself as a part of the WTA Tour, Ajla says she doesn't like to give it much thought. Seeing as how many injuries she's had and the amount of breaks she has had to take because of them, Ajla thinks the only way up is forward, and she intends to do exactly that. Having been blessed to be a part of the tennis history, Ajla is confident in her form this year, and it's further motivated her to swing her rackets to the top. Ajla's determination is a testament to her struggle as an athlete, and we're excited to see where her journey leads her as she makes history. Now, moving on to other news. First up, Elena Rybakina wins the Wimbledon semi-final against Ajla Tomjanovic. Unfortunately for Ajla, her Wimbledon journey came to a halt following her semi-final defeat against the Russian-born Kazakhstani player Elena Rybakina this year. Fans were excited to see Ajla and Elena compete in the quarterfinals. However, as much as we rooted for Ajla, fate had other plans, and even her agile movements couldn't stop Elena from advancing forward towards the Grand Slam title. Although Ajla seemed confident during the first set, her grip over the game was wavered by Rybakina during the second set as Elena turned the game around in her favor despite Ajla's impeccable defense. Elena expressed her triumph over her win and applauded Ajla's performance. Even though Ajla was kind of disappointed after feeling like she was almost there, she walked off the court proud of one of the cleanest sets she's ever played in a tournament. But Ajla's Wimbledon presence isn't the only thing that reporters were interested in. Athletes, like us, are humans, and humans are allowed to feel freely, especially in the 21st century, where they're allowed to date whoever they can without feeling like they're answerable to anybody but themselves and their partner. However, unfortunately for Ajla, the world is still stuck in its gossipy loop. There's a time and place for certain discussions, and a Wimbledon panel is certainly not the place to bring up someone's personal life, much less a controversial one at that. In 2017, Ajla was in a relationship with Nick Kyrgios, who is, and we say that as nicely as we can, not the poster guy for good manners. While Nick has been in hot waters for his controversial statements against many tennis players this year alone, anything he does now has nothing to do with Ajla, or so we thought. Nick's domestic violence allegations have gained traction everywhere. It's on our Twitter feeds, it's on Instagram, it's everywhere on Facebook, and now they've made their way to Ajla in an interview. However, Ajla was pretty straightforward with her answer, saying that she's definitely against domestic violence and she hopes the matter gets resolved soon. She also adds that her relationship with Nick ended years ago, and recalling it, she hasn't had such an experience with him. No doubt, Ajla's maturity shone through her reply, but is it really fair to ask her something like that following a historic career step? No, it's not. And finally, we have Ons Jabeur raking in first among firsts as the foremost Arab woman to make tennis history. The 27-year-old is currently ranked number 2 in the world and has accumulated many firsts in her career as she beat Marie Bouzkova in the semifinals of Wimbledon 2022 on the center court this month. Jabeur gets candid about the Arab course and mentions that her former Moroccan player, Hicham Arazi, told her that Arabs almost always lose in the quarterfinals. He asked her to break the curse, and motivated by his playful humor and encouragement, Ons hit the ball towards victory. This isn't the only first Ons has had on her resume. In fact, in recent years, Ons' achievements have brought in astounding recognition for Arab talent. From making her way into the top 10 player ranking to finding herself as a part of the Wimbledon quarterfinal lineup, we'd say Ons has definitely brought her A-game to these matches. Her aggressiveness is no match for other players on the field, and we're stoked to see her carve her name in tennis history. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about Ajla and her Wimbledon comeback? Do you think she has a shot next year too, or will she step down and retire after her second setback? Drop down your theories in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel for more awesome updates like this. That's it for today. See you in the next one.